Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to be talking a little bit about merchandise and props and souvenirs and things like that I get asked a lot about. So if you are enjoying these, please do like and subscribe. There were various different things along the way that I gathered or were given to me, or gifts or things like that that have become sort of part of my Walton personal collection. There was some merchandise during the course of the series that was sold. One of the main ones was the dolls. This one's pretty torn up. I don't remember where I found it, but they did package together. In this case, this is, as it says, John Boy and Ellen, as opposed to John Boy and Mary Ellen. Very strange. But there was Grandma and Grandpa, there was Mama and Daddy, and then there was John Boy and Ellen. There we are, and I am wearing a gingham dress that looks more like perhaps Little House on the Prairie than anything I ever wore on the Waltons. John Boy in overalls. John Boy did sort of wear overalls, a little bit in the beginning, and he had that little cap, but that doesn't really, to me, look like anything I ever wore. And the other thing that always got me, oops, I'm falling apart, was that this doll, I don't know if you can see it, but this doll has blue eyes. Little inaccuracies, as you might say. I don't have Grandma and Grandpa or Mama and Daddy, but I did have these because, hey, who wouldn't want to be and have, an action figure? I think it's super cool. I love it. Now, next item here is a Walton game. Now, in this case, somebody must have given this to me or wherever I found it, but someone's drawn a mustache on John Boy. And anyway, it's I have no idea how to play the game because there's no instructions with it. So there's a board and there are some sort of cards. And anyway, again, oh, wait a minute. I found the directions. Look at that. They're inside the cover. So maybe I'll finally figure out how to play the game. Additionally, there was a lunchbox and with a thermos, and there were like paper dolls, like you get paper dolls and then you have clothes that you can sort of put on them that sort of have these little tabs that you put onto them. So a number of us were paper dolls. And then there were little children's books that I remember seeing that were sort of about some of the episodes. So it might be like a really short version of The Fawn or something with Elizabeth. And I don't know how accurate they were. Again, I never read them, but sort of some cute items. None of those are things that I have, but sometimes at gatherings when people will bring them for us to sign or just to show them to us. So that's pretty sweet. You probably can still find some of them someplace floating around. I haven't really dug around to find out. There were two sort of Walton Christmas albums. The first one that was done during the series. Will Geer, I believe, did a narration of something on it, but otherwise it is not the cast. Basically, they got together a group of studio singers and just told them to sing badly or something. Anyway, I don't know that I ever listened to the album, but it was a little disappointing to not be asked to be a part of that. But in later years, we did a CD that John Walmsley, Jason, produced and wrote a number of the songs for. And this one is all of the cast. So it's a Walton Christmas Together Again. And I thought John did a fabulous job of producing this, and it was a lot of fun to do. The company that produced it, the record label, went bankrupt, and the CD became part of the rights to something else. Anyway, it's hard to find, but I think you can still dig it up. Then there were other items that were given to us. This is like a director chair back, like I'm sitting in one here. But this was from a Walton Thanksgiving Story. So one of the reunion specials that we did. And after the shooting, these were on the set for us on our chairs as we were filming. And then we were given them afterwards to take home. So I have kept this one. It doesn't quite fit my current director chair, so it just stays in a cupboard. Other things that we ended up with at one point, this was actually connected with the CD, and they gave us these mugs. So that was nice. That's on my shelf. as well as we had a celebration for the, when we hit 200 episodes, we had a big party and we were given mugs. Also ended up, I don't remember who this came from, but some of you have commented on this. This has been in the back of some of my videos, and it is a plaque that someone gifted to us one year. This says Success and Happiness 1972 1979. So that was like the first 7 seasons. So anyway, just a sweet little gift from someone. Early on, well, actually throughout the season, we were given Christmas gifts at Christmas time. It is a beautiful sort of heart necklace, and so I have had this ever since. I really love it. So that was a gift from the company. And then I talked about that the only thing that I kind of ended up with accidentally was the ring. This was the wedding ring that I wore when I was married to Kurt. And sometimes I think it would end up on, still I'd be wearing it when at the end of the day, and I'd forget to take it off. And so often it was just in my purse and it would end up going back and forth with me. And somehow at the end of the show, I ended up with it, and it still fits. So there you go. And sometimes I have ended up using it when I have been doing other shows where I needed to have just a plain wedding band. Patricia Neal. We did a Walton sort of cruise. It was about 1999, and Patricia had just written this book, which is just about her life. She had quite an amazing life, and so she was sweet enough to sign a copy to me, and it says, "To my lovely daughter, Judy." So yeah, so that means a lot to me too. Ellen Corby. This is after her stroke. It's The Pebble of Gibraltar, an autobiography as told to Ellen Corby. So I have not read this, but she also, up there, she signed it or printed it because she was right-handed and it was her right side that was paralyzed. So she had to learn to write with her left hand, and she did. So this is very sweet to me. Isn't this fun? I don't know if you're having fun, but I'm having fun. The Homecoming. The book, The Homecoming. I dug one up at one point because I wanted to have it. And then at some point when I was with Earl, I asked him to sign it for me. And he said, "To Judy, who had the best lines in the movie and knew exactly what to do with them. Love always, Earl." So that was something I absolutely treasure. And then Goodnight John Boy. Another compilation of things about the series and the episodes and the people. And Earl also signed this to me, "To Judy with love and gratitude, Earl." So these are all things that are, I have a shelf of books that were signed by the authors. And then, of course, Mary McDonough's first book, Lessons from the Mountain, What I Learned from Aaron Walton. And she wrote a rather lengthy thing to me here. So I'm not going to read that to you, but you get the idea. One of the other things that I have is some of the scripts. At one point I had all of them, but I got tired of trying to move them all around with moving houses and stuff, and they were very heavy and taking up room. So I kept a few. I kept a few that really meant the most to me. One of those I kept because it is The Homecoming. I had all the cast sign it, and some of the crew, our teacher, various different people connected with making that, the director, Fielder Cook. And so I've always kept that, and you can see it's my original one. So let me see, there's a point where I have underlined, I have my underlined dialogue, and in some cases I have, I have what my stage direction, some of the movement and things that I had there. So that really means a lot to me to have this. And what happens, you'll see, it's like there's multiple colors to this script, different pages. Original scripts are always white pages. And at some point they sort of lock those pages. That is the official version of the script after it's been through however many revisions. And that becomes the shooting script From that point forward, any changes in the script, any revisions, are done in different colored pages. The first revisions are in blue. So initially we might get a white script, and then before filming starts or as filming starts, we might get some blue pages. So I would go through and I would take out the corresponding white pages and put in the blue pages. Then next set of changes would be pink. So then I do that. So because the homecoming took 5 weeks to shoot, obviously there were changes along the way for whatever reason, and I ended up with a multicolored script. I have blue and pink and yellow pages, and I know at some point they go into green pages, and so there is a whole industry standard of the sequence of the page colors so that in any given time you know what everybody's working on. I hope you've enjoyed this little segment about props and merchandise and show and tell. And I hope that you will join me again for a future segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons and more Ask Judy. Thanks for watching.